Welcome to another episode of the Conley Show. I believe it's episode 13 now. Recently, I just had a big life-changing move. I moved to the state of Indiana, and this is the first episode in Indiana. So today, I have Chris with me, all the way from England. Is that right, Chris?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
We're really good. Yeah, we're now getting into those autumn months, and everything's getting dark.
Yeah, it gets dark really early. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It means a lot. As I've said, I only got like 12 or 13 episodes in. Don't really know how to edit yet, but that's coming. That's what this move was about. And today we're going to talk about what it means to really change your life and turn your life around. Chris, from your profile, it sounded like you've had some things go bad in your life. Tell me a little bit about some of the failures you've faced. Because right now, are you an active entrepreneur?
Yes. So yes. I have my design agency that I've run now for a few years. And then that's kind of where I am now with maybe a clothing range that I'm looking to do and run a charity. So yeah, we're very much about building something for the next few years.
Yeah, and that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about. So you run a nonprofit, is that right?
So we have the main business, Tick Creative, which is an agency that looks after all media, so video, website, and graphics. And then we have the Hunters, which is the brand that we're trying to build, which will be a charity that will go to help young men to be aspirational, to dream, to kind of have those, I can't do this, well, let's get in there, let's help you, let's get you, to inspire you to be great. You need some money to go to college. Here's money for college. You need money for suits for an interview. We'll help you with that as well.
That's awesome. That's really great. You're doing that. Now, is this just in England or the United Kingdom?
It's going to start here, but my plans are to have it in the US next. So for the last few years, I've been traveling back and forward to Colorado. My wife was living there for a while. I saw a great opportunity there to because the name of it's called the Hunters. So the Hunters is all about hunting for greatness and giving that to young boys. So we kind of were inspired by when we were out in Colorado and out in the wild to create this thing. So yeah, it's going to be UK and then to the US. That's awesome.
I like that name too, and I like the idea. So you said you've been doing this for a couple of years now?
Yeah. About 3 years.
I'm sorry, cut out there. What was that?
The main business is about 3.5 years.
About 3.5 years. Yeah. Where did you come up with this idea?
Which one, for Tick or for the Hunters?
For the nonprofit.
Well, that came from, it actually started where my daughter couldn't get any clothes in her size. She was 12 years old and she wanted the clothes that the US had. So she wanted these kind of East-West designs. Very hard to get them over here, the Hollister type of thing. Yeah. So I started designing this for young girls. Lots of different things happened that kind of stopped it manufactured in the UK. And then all of a sudden I came across a couple of boys that were talking about giving up on life at like 17. Yeah. And my thought was, well, how at 17 can you be quitting already? How can you not have a dream to be great? It was always about, my environment. My parents don't think I can be anything. Nobody in my family's ever done anything. So I started thinking, how can we have youngsters doing this? So what we thought about was, why don't we find a way of inspiring them? Why don't we find a way of raising some money, at the same time creating this kind of foundation that would allow us to put the money and the mentors that I've been kind of surrounding myself with in the business world to create something that lets these young men, again, I say dream, to kind of think, okay, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. Here's the money, the backing, the experience and the knowledge, and then let's watch them go through this journey.
So that's awesome. What are like the qualifications, or how does somebody go about trying to reach out to you to be a part of this program?
So at the minute, it's still in the creation process. We're just setting up, formalizing. In the UK, setting up a charity is a lot of work. You have to have a lot of people involved with it. COVID was a big issue. It stopped our manufacturing. The actual guys who were manufacturing the clothing that we were going to use as a fundraiser just went. So we had to start from scratch. Now we're in a position where The UK is coming back out of COVID. Manufacturers are starting to get it back into gear, getting their staff up and running. So what we're hoping for is by March, April of next year, we're going to be ready to go, right, now let's get started. And the first phase will be, we'll use social media to reach out to people. We'll have a new website which will allow people to nominate somebody that they think is worthy of a funding or being part of a program. We're then going to create a series of events where we want to invite young men to come along. There'll be a series of speakers that will talk about motivation of, where you are right now is not where we want you to finish. It's just your starting point. There'll be people there to talk about CV writing, applying for college, really kind of giving people a lot of information and knowledge that maybe they don't have access to.
Yeah. So one question I had for you, what are the benefits of running a nonprofit? Because is that what a nonprofit is that it's a business where you're not necessarily profiting? Is it like simple as that, or are there special like tax cuts in the UK? I don't really know how any of that works.
It's purely about helping people.
Right. Yeah.
So I've always wanted to run a business. I run a business, but I've always had this feeling about giving money back to people. If you get fortunate enough, and over the years, I've had a lot of kind of hills to climb, and I've been strong enough to climb those hills and come out the other side. So the non-profit is purely a way of us saying, if we make huge amounts of profit with the business, well, I want to give that back. So the non-profit just means exactly what you just said about the taxes. We don't have to pay as much taxes. We're exempt from a lot of things. What it means is I can run a business, but all the money can just be plowed straight back into services and programs that will help the people we want to help.
That's awesome. How many, I don't know if you would call them employees, or how many people are a part of this program?
At the minute, it's only a handful of people, only a couple of us. The plan is, as we build the structure of the charity, there'll be probably 12 people that will run the charity. I will take a step back and I want to run the programs rather than run the charity. So we're just kind of finalizing those people that have the experience, whilst I kind of can sit there and work with the youngsters while other people run the charity.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. So the nonprofit is called what? The Hunters?
It's the Hunters.
And
yes.
Then your business, your design business or company, what is that called?
That's called Tick Creative. Now, Tick Creative stands for Tatiana's in Charge.
Is that your daughter's name?
No, Tatiana is actually my wife, who was the one who kind of stopped me having a daytime job and said, you know what, you're doing all this work in the background. Yeah. It's about time you went out on your own. And she's the one that's inspired me to go, okay, I'm ready. And she was the one that made me go and start the business.
That's awesome. So one of the things that talking to entrepreneurs, I like to consider myself an entrepreneur. I really like the logistics of business, but I don't have a lot of money I still got to work a job. I don't have money to start up. How important is it to have people support you, especially in your family? That's got to be, to have the backing of them, that's got to be super important, right?
I think what's important is that I started this business with zero cash, absolutely no cash. The biggest part of this business is my ability to create a product and sell it. So having cash, really, all I had to have was a laptop and the software, and I could go out and create a product. But what I did have was a partner that had the ability to pay all our bills. So I could then really deploy patience. That, I think, is the biggest part of running the business, is the patience. We're in a world now where everyone is, I have to be, I've got to run a business, I've got to be rich now, I need to be having the big cars, I need to be having the offices. Well, you don't. What you need to have is a fabulous product. You need to have a bit of patience. You need to have a good work ethic, because it's great if what we do is we get a business, then we buy a watch. We're really kind of, we buy dumb shit, if you excuse the language. That's what we do. It's, okay, I've made a bit of money, I need a nice car. Okay, I made a bit more money, now I want the really flash suit or the big office. Well, all you're doing is spending the money that you're going to need in 2 months' time when you haven't done enough sales. Right. That's the kind of important thing, is when you start a business, it's not about, oh, I need a load of money. It's about, are you willing to put the work in? Are you consistent? Do you show up? And do you have a product that you can sell? If you do, then you'll make money. And then you just have to don't spend it.
Yes.
Just leave it. You know, those things will come. So live, and also then live cheap.
Live cheap, right? Live within your means.
Move home to mum and dad if you have to.
Yeah.
You know,
that's actually what I just did.
Yeah. Pay mum and dad a little bit of rent. Don't take their money. Make your own money and just be patient. That I think is the golden rule.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the rules you touched base on it is show up, be consistent. And I think if you just be consistent and like you said, you are patient, you'll start to see these gems blossom, especially if you're putting in the work. What's an average work week for you? Do you consistently put in hours on both your businesses?
Yeah, I'm a stickler for being up before 6.
Yeah.
So I work by 6:30. I'm working. I then tend to go through most days to 10 p.m. at night, maybe 11, depending on the work. But I'm not apologetic if I take an hour off on a Thursday afternoon to go and have lunch with the wife or take one of the kids into town. That to me is precious. I just don't knock myself for that. You know, I work long hours because my clients demand it. My clients have, they have a perception of what I deliver because I always show up. I answer my emails. Everything else doesn't matter during the working day. But if I did want to take an hour for lunch, I've deserved it. I think I can go and do that, and I don't knock myself for it. You just work hard in what we call the daylight hours.
Absolutely. If you work hard, rewards will come. I think that's a big lesson to learn from it. Real quick, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of the hills you went over and some of the accomplishments and failures, because I was reading your profile and it said you had a fire one time. How recent was that?
That was in 99.
99?
So that was kind of, I'd come out of a period of time where I actually broke my back. So I lost 4 vertebrae in my spine. And then if I kind of lost the opportunity to start a business, I went and got fully employed. And just before Christmas, December the 14th, 99, mine and 6 other houses literally burnt to the ground.
How? Do you know what started the fire?
Yeah. I had a next door neighbor who was in his garage. He was working on motorcycles and he was welding. He had oxyacetylene canister, color gas keeping him warm. And then he had another canister full of petrol. The fumes hit up, burst up. He flew out the garage. The 6 houses just burnt to the ground. So I found myself with, we lost everything we owned, living in a hotel over Christmas. But that was just another event that you just have to get through. Yeah. So I kind of have this thing of, well, it's my fault for living there. I don't blame anyone for it. If I'd lived in another house, another place in town, that wouldn't happen. So yes, we lost everything, we rebuilt, but at the end of it, we had a brand new house.
Yeah. Was any lives lost in this?
No, we were fortunate. My ex-wife and my eldest son were actually in the house. The fireman came along, smashed the front door down.
Oh, wow.
So they smashed the front door down. She had to whip him out the bath, got them out of the house. I was actually down the shops buying the last tin of paint to finish a house that I'd spent 6 years building. And that was the thing. We just had to get out. We lost all possessions. But again, they're only possessions. We can build them again. We were insured.
Yeah. So you were insured. So
yeah.
When something like that happens, what does the insurance company do? Do they cut you a check to rebuild, to repurchase a home? How does that work?
But in the UK, you have 2 options. In the UK, you have buildings insurance and contents insurance. So we were very fortunate. I'd always overpaid. I'd always had the best insurance. So what they would do is the guy turned up the next day, gave me a check to go and rent a house and get a few things for Christmas. And then when the house was built, they just said, what did you lose? I wrote a fabulous list and all this stuff delivered. So yes, it was 18 months of living out into another rented house. But after 18 months, when the house was rebuilt, it was actually worth more money. We sold it and moved to a better house. So there's always a silver lining.
Yeah. Sounds it. That's really good that you had insurance. I guess that's what it's there for, right?
Exactly. And I recommend to everyone, look at your insurance and just see how much you're insured by. Because I think the majority of people we spoke to after all found out they were underinsured.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you're a father. How many kids do you have?
So I've got a 29-year-old, a 17-year-old, and I have my third daughter due in January.
Oh, so she's not even born yet. Well,
Not yet. No,
congratulations on that, by the way. Yeah, how are you feeling about that? You feeling good?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
Say it's the third, so hopefully after the first two, I know what I'm doing.
Right.
I've had them all at different times of life.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different, I guess, different ways of bringing them up.
Right. Absolutely. They say, you learn a lot of lessons as a parent. So, and especially they say if you have kids later in your life, you know what to do and what not to do. So hopefully everything goes well. You said due in January?
Due in January, yeah.
Yeah. What are some other obstacles that you would like to talk about that you have overcome that have really like kind of, I don't know the right word, but have slowed you down in life to where you want to be?
It's one of those things that when I talk about them, some people they come to, really? Did that happen? I've had a series of events. So like I said, before the fire, I had the broken back. So that was taking me on a certain career path, but then I snapped spine in two. So I had to then change careers. Then the house burnt down. So again, I kind of paused any plans I had to go alone and create my own business. Then after that, I had my marriage broke down. I ended up living in this small house. Then after that, I finally got myself on my feet. And then through various reasons, I found myself homeless. And I was running a business at the time. And for 13 weeks, I slept in a car. So I would work during the day at rented offices of one of my clients. I'd wait for him to leave and then go and sleep in my car by a bin. And this was for 13 weeks.
Right.
So the hardest part of that was I never told anyone. So it was all about picking my daughter up, who was only 7 at the time, picking her up from her mum's, taking her out for the day. And then when it came to, it's weekend at dad's, driving down to my mum's at the beach, staying there at the weekend. And so she just thought it was a bit of fun. Dad's taking me to the beach every other weekend.
Yeah.
And then I'd get a care package from my mum, who at the time they ran this golf club, and they would make some food. I'd then go back, drop my daughter off and go and sleep in the car, but always planning, how do I get out of this? I'm sleeping in this rental car. They're going to want it back soon. So, and then when that kind of got to the 13 weeks, I then had a stroke. So I found myself in hospital. I'd gone from this period of, okay, I think I'm going to get out of this car and I'm going to get somewhere, to then finding myself in a stroke unit after having a stroke in a supermarket.
Oh, wow.
I was 40 years old and sitting there thinking, how can things do? A lot of people said to me about, my family are, Tatiana and my daughter are very much Christian. They believe in God. I've always had an issue with that. And even now, it was, what else do you need from me? You took my back, you gave me, everything got burnt down. I went through then the homelessness, that all of a sudden now I'm in hospital with stroke.
Yeah.
So I really had to have a thought about how I was now going to move forward, because I had a place to go and recuperate. I didn't have a structure around me of people that could just take me in. I had to think about what to do, because now I'm going to have to admit to people, all this frontage you see is just that. I'm a homeless man who's 40 years old and now in hospital with stroke. So that was probably one of my biggest challenges, was all of a sudden I had to own up to people and go, okay, maybe I need help.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the toughest parts, but I wouldn't take that away from me now, because now I kind of feel bulletproof.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up, actually. I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason, but it's kind of when shit hits the fan and, you're going through all these, like a stroke, house burned down, it's hard to see the bigger picture of why this is happening to you.
Yeah.
So
I think laugh. I think you just have to laugh at it.
Yeah.
I see so many people quitting nowadays over small things, and I find myself kind of getting angry at it as to, why are you quitting? You've gone through one thing, but I can't say that, because my things were very different. I look at it, I'm never a victim. Everything I've ever gone through, I always blame myself. That way I don't become a victim. I don't then inside me get this whole, I'm here because of somebody else.
Right.
I can only and I can't beat myself up, because I think to myself that, okay, Chris, you're really good at what you do. You're a great father. You're a good friend to people. You'll come through this. You just have to now work out a plan of how you're going to get the next step. And too many people just kind of go, everything's too big. I want to way out. I quit. But I've been very fortunate to have this mentality of, okay, whatever comes my way, it can't be worse than the sleeping in the car.
Yeah.
Because there's people that are sleeping in doorways. So I didn't have it bad. I actually had it quite good. I could change the view every night. I know that sounds quite flippant, but I had the ability not to sleep by a dumpster. I could drive the car down and sleep by a beach. I could drive the car, sleep somewhere else. I wasn't stuck in a position where I could be abused at night like some of the homeless are. So I always put a positive spin on everything that happens. We went through a beginning of this year, when we found out about being pregnant, the hospital made a mistake and wanted to take the baby away. So we went through this whole thing of, we're going to abort your baby. So we could have panicked and thought, oh my God, what are we going to do? But we stayed calm. We just kind of, went through the process, made sure we asked the right questions. My role then was to comfort my wife, to make sure that she was, supported, and we got through this. And now we're through it, but we remained strong and we got through this and we didn't panic. And I think a lot of that comes from all of the things that have happened over the previous years that have just made me realize that you don't panic. You think of a plan. If you need to get help, talk to people, you do that. And if you can't find an answer, you put your hand up and ask someone.
Yeah, that's good. They say, it's very important to ask questions. What, if you don't mind me asking, what was the hospital's reason behind aborting the baby?
It was purely down to, I think, so many people look at scans, and the baby was 5 weeks. So, we have this thing at the minute as people are saying about when you should abort a baby. We had a heartbeat at 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So we had one person saying it was growing, they thought ectopic. So then we had to go to another hospital to them to say, yeah, we think it is ectopic, we're going to rip the baby out. And we were just, no, you're not. We've done enough. We've gone through a lot to get here. Many years we've been trying. And then we got a second opinion, and that person again agreed. So we were in a position where technology was saying, we need to get rid of this baby for your health and safety. Fortunately, over 4 days, we kind of were back and forth and trying to get more and more people to look at it. Then a senior surgeon came in and said that, no, the uterus is flipped. We don't want to change anything. And fortunately now she's 27 weeks and everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, so I just looked at that, okay, it's another thing. It's just another thing that I get through. So now, that's when I say the word bulletproof, I almost feel like now there is nothing that could stop my progression to what I want to achieve. I'm only 48 years old. When I get to 58, 68, I'm still going to be going forward. And I have the patience to say, if I make this huge charity and this huge business by the time I'm 60, 70, 80, it's still a success.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I've learned is success means something different to everyone. What does success mean to you with this non-for-profit? Do you want to help X amount of people? Do you want to make a certain amount of money? I know the nonprofit, it's all about helping people. So in your eyes, what will be a successful non-for-profit business?
So for me, it would be, I think we looked at it originally was numbers. If we could put 1,000 kids through college, and then that 1,000 kids went on to either, start their own business, got an education that meant they got a job that they never thought they would get. I think to me, that's the success. But if I can just get a generation of kids, especially young boys who lack a father figure, maybe they're in an environment where they're always knocked down. You hear this thing, who do you think you are? Why can't you be doctor why can't you be work in a warehouse like your dad? Why can't you be this? Why can't you be that? Rather than, what do you want to be? I want to be X. Fabulous. Yeah. What do you need to achieve that? So that's my success point, is that I get a generation of young kids, whether they're 12 to 20, that kind of just never feel a barriers in their way, that we can be seen as something that puts a load of young boys through a process that creates this optimism and this bulletproof against, nowadays people are knocked so easily. They're told they can't do something. They go on social media and people are laughing at them. I want to be able to get a generation of kids now that are no longer affected by somebody's comments, that because we don't listen to anybody.
Yeah.
You can say what you like about us, because we don't listen to it. We zone it out and we just go, well, we're happy. We know what we want. We move forward. Kids nowadays, I think, just need to have the ability to be told, you're awesome. You now have the ability. It's no more excuses. Chris and the hunters will be able to generate whatever it is you need to get somewhere. And that just, to me, that sounds like an amazing achievement, to have a load of people that just go, I want to be the next, some kids, I want to be the next, I don't know, the next Tom Brady. I want to be the next Pele. I want to be the next CEO, or I want to have the next idea and have the new Amazon. Or I also now want to create a fabulous charity like Chris has got and help my community. That would be brilliant.
Yeah, that's really well said. Are you familiar with Joe Rogan at all?
Yeah, I'm an avid Joe Rogan fan.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. He's got a great podcast. And I listen, like if I'm feeling down or I'm going through a tough time, one of the things I like to do is listen to his motivational speeches. And he says it very well. He says a lot of the things we touched base on, but he also says that half the battle is just showing up. So if you want to be consistent, you want to do something great, you just have to get started. And I think you just starting your non-for-profit, that's a huge step forward into helping people, because it's not just an idea. You're putting your ideas forward, you're doing something about it. And that's kind of like me with the podcast. I don't think I'm going to be the next Joe Rogan, but I want to be like him. So just showing up and doing a podcast, I think is a big challenge.
Just to get in there, I think the one thing that is really important with, especially when a lot of people aspire to be someone like Joe Rogan, who's got, the millions. Joe Rogan had a platform before then. It's like when people knock Kardashians, they had a super business mum that set them up from childbirth to be famous. But there are other people that are, if you look at someone like Gary Vee, for 18 months, nobody looked at any of his podcasts. On YouTube, he started the Wine Library. Nobody watched, but he did it every single day. If you go right back to the beginning, the first 1,000 episodes, nobody watched.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, they start to watch. And I think nowadays, people give up too early. So when you get to number 633 or 713, and your numbers are growing, and you're getting more and more interesting guests on, and that's where it goes back to what I said about consistency. You just never give up. You just keep inviting people along. People will keep listening, and gradually, even if you had, one person a day or one person a week that subscribed, that could be 50. That then it turns into 600, turns into 1,000, turns into 4,000. 4,000 all of a sudden is making you a nice bit of money, but you just carry on. And then what you do is you knock on the door and say, if I get to 1,000 subscribers, or if I get to 1,000 episodes, will you come on my podcast? Reach out to these people that you think could be interesting, that were in your shoes, and just say, when I hit 1,000 episodes, will you come on my podcast? You'll find so many of them will want to help you.
Yeah.
And that's my consistency and showing up, and just don't give up with it.
Yeah. I like the way you put that. I've had people, message me, or I've messaged them about coming on the podcast. And then they ask, how many viewers do you have? How many subscribers? And once they hear the numbers, they don't message me back. So it makes me think, I'm not popular enough to, and it's just kind of, that sucks that people think, just because you're not big, I'm not going to help you out. But I guess where I'm going with this is, I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time, because, I am just starting out. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I just wanted to know, how long have you been working on this non-for-profit? You said about 3 years now?
For about 3 years. And if it takes me another 3 years, we'll do 3 years. I think that's the difference between us and a lot of other companies. We're just not going to give up. We'll get there.
Yeah.
The idea is the idea. The journey to the end, the completion, the success is going to be up and down. It's going to be, there's going to be issues, and we've got through the COVID issues. And I say that about everything else. A brick wall is just another thing to climb.
Yeah. That's actually, you just reminded me, that's something I wanted to ask you. During the pandemic, were you able to still come to the States, or did they shut that down?
No, they shut it down roughly around March of
Yeah.
2020. My wife had just come back from Spain. They were shutting down. She just got out in time. And we were used to flying to and from Denver very regularly. So we've not been back to Denver since, I think, probably, actually we came out of Colombia in the January. We were there in January, and then they shut everything down. They've opened up US this week. So now we're starting to plan how we can go back to the US.
Awesome.
So we're looking forward to back in the US in Colorado. Hopefully, probably with her being pregnant at 27 weeks, flying's not the greatest. So definitely, because everybody wants to see the baby. So hopefully March, April, we'll get back to the US with that. But maybe I'll have to go on my own just so I can go and pick up some American supplies.
Yeah. I've actually never flown before. So from the sound of it, you've been all over the world, or just all over? Have you been to other parts of the States?
Yeah, the States, I think where we've been to LA, so we've been to California, New York, Utah, Texas. My favorite place down there, I think, was either Death Valley or I think the Grand Canyon. I thought was great. US for me is just something I love to drive through. The variations in heats, the variations in Colorado, 80-degree heat in the summer, and then it's -6, but the sun is shining. The diversity of weather and the diversity of people, of language, of especially with the difference in the way people kind of treat life. It's so different from Colorado to California. To me, that's intriguing. It's a fabulous way of looking at how people buy, as well as how people look at life. So we travel back and forth all the time. And I look forward to come back again. And I hope that the Hunters is something that we can really kind of push there in the next couple of years.
What part of England are you from?
So I'm in a part called Hampshire. It's very interesting. You had a podcast on recently who was in leafy, the south of England. I think it was 1 or 2 ago. I don't think I'm far from him. So I'm just southwest of London.
Okay.
So we're not far from London. I go to London every week for work. A lot of customers in London, but we're in a place where we're 45 minutes from the sea, 45 minutes from Heathrow Airport, and 45 minutes from the beautiful New Forest, which is a great place to hike and cycle.
My grandfather was actually born in Coventry City. How far is that from you?
That's north of us, probably about an hour and a half drive.
Oh, okay. And how is England just one time zone?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so England. So England is roughly about. It's for where I am. To get to Scotland will take me about 6.5 hours, 7 hours to get to Scotland. Wales is about 2-hour drive west. So England's one of those countries. Yeah, you can get to every part of England in less than a day.
That's what I thought. I think they said it's like about the size of the state of Florida or something like that.
I think Florida dwarfs us.
Yeah. Oh.
I think we can fit in Florida.
What's the population roughly of England?
60 million.
60 million? That's a lot of people.
Yeah. A lot of people, but we have a lot of green land as well. We could probably put another 60 million in, but we have a love of what we call the green belt, which is trees and streams and the canals and things. So we're very, very strongly feel about keeping these things. So we try not to create too many urban places that are just full of people. Right. We're really good, I think, in this country of making sure we spread it out.
Yeah. Like I said, I recently lived in New York, and then I moved to Indiana. And one of the biggest things I've noticed is went from country life to almost city life. And like I came here, and one of the things, they don't really recycle much in Indiana. Their cars put on a lot of emissions. And I couldn't get over the fact that just a different type of lifestyle. And I can't even imagine traveling all across the states. But that's something that I definitely want to do. Now, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, how can people better themselves that are going through a really tough time? Because when you're going through a tough time, it's hard to see the silver lining. It's hard to see the bigger picture. do you have any advice on what you could do by keeping a positive mindset?
I do. The biggest thing I tell this to a lot of people is stop looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You know, when I was living in my car, the biggest thought for me was, okay, how do I get out of this? And it's easy to say, you know, woe is me, this is it, I'm done for and I can't live on. But if you think about it into small chunks, so the first part of me was, okay, I need to find a client that pays good money and do that quickly. Once I get through that, I then need to find a way of getting out of this car. Then the next step is the next step, which could be for me was to find a way to get into a solid location. That ended up actually for a few nights being the office and sleeping on a sofa. The next step then would be, okay, now do I get an apartment? Then the next, so if you break everything down in these small, achievable chunks, so that could be for most people is, I need a job, any job. When we set this up, I went and delivered groceries in a lorry, £10 an hour, you know, that was not a lot of money, but it meant there was some cash.
Yeah.
Then that then allowed me to do other things, allowed me to buy some business cards. It allowed me to do a course online. It then allowed me to do little bits and pieces, little steps that built things up. So, and then I celebrated those wins. And you have to do that. You have to kind of think, okay, I've now done part A of what I said I was going to achieve this week. Celebrate it, pat yourself on the back, and then plan for the next stage. And then again, be consistent, make sure you do that. The lying down in the duvet and thinking I'm never going to get up, this is definitely over. All that does is allow the brain to switch off and say, fine, this is it, I'm happy. You're happy and safe and secure, I'm doing nothing. You need to fight that by just creating that plan, piece of paper, iPhone, whatever it is you've got, and write the plan. And then think of, okay, if I get through these 5 pieces, I'm then going to be in a situation to launch the next plan. And that way you don't see a huge picture.
Yeah.
And that's how I survived or got through everything. It was always just small chunks.
Small chunks, one step at a time.
Yeah.
That's really important. I do a lot of, writing things out, creating lists. And I think if you just create a list, write it down, do step by step, even if it's small steps, you will get to where you want to be.
You will do.
You will.
And believe in it. We have a strong brain in our heads.
Yeah.
And if you can stop the brain from putting the negative parts in your mind, those little ideas are, you can't do this, you're no good. The bits that maybe a lot of parents have drummed into kids' heads, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? You're too short, you're too fat, you're too slow, whatever these things are. If you believe that, you'll always be that. Whatever you want to do, you're always going to be, the idea is if I can't do it or I can do it, you're always going to be right. Yeah. If you think you can't do it, you won't. If you think you can do it, you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
And always believe you can do it and you will do it. You
have to believe in yourself. That's a big.
Yes, and listen to nobody.
Yeah, especially the naysayers.
Listen to your parents. Yes, ignore the parents. Don't listen to a thing your parents say.
Yeah.
Literally, just ignore them.
Yeah.
Don't listen to friends, girlfriends, wives. If you've got a vision and you want that to achieve that goal, do it. Ignore everybody. Stick with the plan and the idea you have.
Absolutely. I have a poster in my room of Elon Musk, and it says something along the lines of, if you believe in it enough, if it's important enough, you do it anyway. I'm paraphrasing, but it says something like that.
Yeah.
I look at that every day. It's motivation. Right next to pictures of my daughter, who's not even 4 years old yet. So that gives me motivation. Chris?
I have a poster on the wall that is a Gary V saying, which is all about if anybody's starting a business, stop buying dumb shit. And that's
I like that.
It's a fabulous way of running a business, even your life. When you've got no money to pay for anything outside of food and rent, stop buying stuff you don't need. If you have to live off ramen noodles for a year, but it means the business takes off, and it means you can afford to buy a mobile phone and then call everybody every single day, or DM everybody on Instagram or LinkedIn, that is much better than you going, I'm going to go out tonight and buy a £5 Starbucks, or I'm going to go and get something from, I don't know, ring up, get Uber Eats to deliver some food. Eat crap for 2 years. If it's important enough for you, then just make sure that the idea is never lost.
I really like that. Really well said. One of the things I want to do is I want to create my own estate sales business. I was working for an estate sale company. You know, I saw the owner have great success. He taught me the ins and outs, but I recently moved and I moved to a bigger city. So one of the things I want to do is start that, but I need the money to do it. But I think, every day, kind of like you said, if it's important enough, you just keep working at it. And that's something I really got to work on. Stop buying dumb shit. That's good. That's good advice.
We've all done it. We've all gone out and gone, I've had a really great week. And then you spend £60, £100 on something to celebrate it. And then the following week, something comes up and you can't pay for it.
Right. Yeah, I've been there many times.
Or an opportunity comes up that meant that money you just wasted on a takeaway could have been used to generate something for your business. Whereas you can celebrate, celebrate by going to McDonald's and having a really crappy burger that gives the endorphins a quick boost. And you can just go, well done, mate. I've done really well this week. And then rinse and repeat. That's it.
That's good advice. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Is there anything else you wanted to add before I let you go?
No, I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Great. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, great talking to you. Keep working hard, and I wish you the best of luck with your daughter and everything else. Until next time, stay curious. Bye, Chris. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Cheers.